The rain lashed against the towering windows of the Caldwell estate, a storm mirroring the turmoil brewing in Anna's heart. Life had been relentlessly harsh for her, but nothing compared to the anguish of watching her 8-year-old son, Max, battling for his life. With medical bills piling up and time slipping away, Anna was running out of options and hope. Welcome to Storytelling and Beyond, where we bring you heart-touching stories filled with suspense, unexpected twists, and the power of human resilience. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to support stories that inspire and move us all. Anna's hands trembled as she polished the grand mahogany desk in Mr. Caldwell's study. Every stroke of her cloth seemed to echo her desperation. Max's face flashed in her mind, pale and weak, yet still smiling at her with the faith only a child could muster. The doctor's words rang in her ears, "The surgery is critical, but it's expensive." The cost was a mountain she could never climb with her humble earnings as a maid. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the door opening. She turned sharply, finding Mr. Caldwell entering the study. He barely acknowledged her presence as he crossed the room to the safe tucked discreetly in the corner. Anna kept her head down, her heart racing as she continued dusting. She had never paid much attention to the safe before, but today, something was different. Mr. Caldwell dialed the combination, the soft clicks of the lock almost deafening in the silent room. Anna's sharp eyes inadvertently caught the sequence, 7-4-2-3. It happened in a split second, unintentional but unforgettable. He opened the safe, retrieved a bundle of documents, and exited as abruptly as he had entered, leaving Anna alone with her thoughts. She stood frozen, the numbers repeating themselves in her mind. Anna tried to dismiss them, shaking her head as if to dislodge the temptation that had crept in. But as she glanced at the safe, the weight of her reality pressed harder on her chest. Inside that steel door lay the answer to her prayers. Money, more than enough to pay for Max's surgery and give him a fighting chance at life. No, she whispered to herself, clutching the cleaning cloth tightly. She wasn't that kind of person. She had always believed in working hard and staying honest, no matter how dire the circumstances. But this wasn't just about her, it was about Max, her reason for everything. Could she ignore the chance to save him, even if it meant crossing a line she never thought she would? The storm outside raged on as Anna finished her work and left the study. But the tempest within her was far from over. With each step away from the safe, she felt the pull of a choice she wasn't ready to make. Yet deep down, she knew the storm had only just begun. The storm had passed by morning, but Anna's inner turmoil remained, churning like a restless sea. She had hardly slept, tossing and turning as the image of the safe and the haunting code 7-4-2-3 flashed through her mind. As sunlight filtered through the curtains of her modest apartment, she glanced at Max, lying frail on the couch. His shallow breaths and pale complexion were constant reminders of the ticking clock. By midday, desperation had overpowered her fear. "I'll only take what's necessary," Anna told herself, her voice shaking as she tried to justify the unthinkable. "I'll pay it back when I can." She had never stolen anything in her life, yet the thought of losing Max was unbearable. She wasn't doing this for greed, she reminded herself she was doing it for love. That evening, Mr. Caldwell left the house for a business dinner, leaving the staff to their own devices. The timing was perfect, almost as if fate was daring her to act. As the clock struck 7, Anna found herself standing outside the study door. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drumbeat of alarm, yet her trembling hand turned the knob. The room was silent, the air heavy with the scent of polished wood and leather. She moved toward the safe, each step feeling like a descent into the unknown. Her fingers hovered over the dial, hesitating. "This is for Max," she whispered, as if saying it aloud would absolve her of guilt. With shaky hands, she entered the code. 7-4-2-3, the lock clicked open, and the safe door swung wide. Inside, bundles of cash were stacked neatly, their crisp edges gleaming under the soft light. Anna's breath caught. She had never seen so much money in her life. "I'll take only what I need," she muttered, grabbing a handful and stuffing it into her bag. It wasn't as much as she thought she might need, just enough for the surgery. Her conscience screamed at her to stop, to close the safe and leave, but she couldn't. Not now. Not when Max's life depended on it. As she zipped her bag shut, a faint creak echoed through the room. Anna froze, her heart stopping as she whipped her head toward the door. It was slightly ajar, the darkness of the hallway beyond seeming to stretch endlessly. Had someone been there? Had she been seen? Panicking, she closed the safe and reset the lock. Her hands fumbled, and her breath came in shallow gasps. She glanced around the room, searching for any sign that she had left something out of place. Satisfied that everything appeared untouched, she slipped out of the study and hurried back to her quarters. As she sat on her bed clutching the bag of money, Anna felt a strange mix of relief and dread. She had the means to save Max now, but at what cost? Her mind raced with fear. What if Mr. Caldwell noticed? What if someone had seen her? The weight of her actions bore down on her as the night stretched on, but one thought remained clear. There was no turning back now. The next morning, the atmosphere in the Caldwell estate was unusually tense. Anna had barely managed to calm her nerves, but the heavy silence around her felt suffocating. It wasn't long before the staff were called to gather in the grand living room. Mr. Caldwell stood by the fireplace, his face impassive but his eyes sharp, scanning the room like a hawk. "A significant amount of money is missing from my safe," he announced, his voice calm yet commanding. The words sent a jolt of fear through Anna, though she kept her face carefully neutral. "I won't accuse anyone outright," he continued, "but I want whoever is responsible to come forward. If they do, there will be no harsh consequences. We'll handle this matter quietly." The room was silent, save for the faint ticking of the grandfather clock. Anna's heart thundered in her chest as her mind raced. Did he know? Was this a trap to catch her? She kept her gaze fixed on the floor, afraid that the guilt in her eyes would betray her. "Mr. Caldwell's gaze lingered on her for a moment too long, and Anna felt her stomach drop. But then he turned away, pacing the room with his hands clasped behind his back. "I understand that times are difficult," he said, his tone softer now. "I've been there myself, once." The staff exchanged uneasy glances, but Anna's interest was piqued despite her fear. Mr. Caldwell rarely spoke about his personal life. She couldn't help but listen closely as he continued. "Years ago, when I was just starting out, I had a small business and a trusted partner. He was like a brother to me," Mr. Caldwell said, his voice tinged with melancholy. "But one day, I discovered that he'd been stealing from me. When I confronted him, he admitted it, saying he needed the money to pay for his mother's medical bills." Anna's breath hitched. The story struck too close to home. "I was furious at first," Mr. Caldwell went on, "but I couldn't ignore his desperation. Instead of pressing charges, I forgave him and helped him get the care his mother needed." He paused, his eyes scanning the room once more. "Sometimes, people do the wrong things for the right reasons. That doesn't make it right, but it makes it understandable." The weight of his words pressed down on Anna like a ton of bricks. She felt a surge of conflicting emotions, guilt, fear, and something she couldn't quite place. Did he know it was her? Was this his way of giving her a chance to come clean? As the meeting ended and the staff dispersed, Anna's mind was in turmoil. Mr. Caldwell's story had struck a nerve, and his calm demeanor unsettled her. She had expected anger, accusations, perhaps even police involvement. But his approach was far more calculated and far more terrifying. It was clear that Mr. Caldwell was no fool. If he didn't already know who had stolen the money, he would soon. And when that moment came, Anna wasn't sure if she would be able to bear the consequences. That evening, as the estate settled into its usual quiet, Anna sat alone in her small room. The stolen money, now hidden in a battered envelope under her mattress, felt like a ticking time bomb. Her conscience gnawed at her relentlessly. Mr. Caldwell's story from earlier replayed in her mind, his words about understanding the desperation behind a wrong choice cutting deeper than she wanted to admit. Unable to bear the weight any longer, Anna made a decision. She carefully retrieved the envelope and made her way to Mr. Caldwell's study. Her hands trembled as she clutched the money, her heart pounding with every step. She rehearsed her words, but nothing seemed right. All she knew was that she couldn't keep this secret any longer. She reached the study and found the door ajar. Inside, Mr. Caldwell sat at his desk, his expression unreadable as he studied some papers. Summoning all her courage, Anna knocked softly on the doorframe. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, his sharp gaze meeting hers. "I need to tell you something," Anna continued, stepping inside and placing the envelope on the desk. I took the money. I didn't mean to steal. I was desperate. My son, Max, he's very sick, and I didn't know what else to do. I'm so sorry." Mr. Caldwell stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Anna braced herself for the worst, her heart sinking with every second of silence. Finally, he leaned back in his chair and let out a sigh. "I suspected it might be you," he said, his tone calm but firm. "You've always been a good worker, Anna. Honest, reliable. That's why I didn't report the theft. I wanted to give you a chance to come to me first." Tears welled up in Anna's eyes. "I didn't want to hurt anyone," she said, her voice breaking. "I just wanted to save my son." Mr. Caldwell's stern expression softened. "I understand," he said, his voice gentler now. "Desperation can drive even the best of us to make poor choices. But honesty, Anna, takes real courage. I respect that you came forward." He picked up the envelope, glanced at it, and then placed it back on the desk. "Keep it," he said. "Use it for your son's treatment. And if there's anything else you need, let me know. We'll figure it out together." Anna's knees buckled, and she sank into the chair opposite him, overwhelmed by his kindness. "Thank you," she whispered, her tears flowing freely. "Thank you so much." "Just promise me one thing," Mr. Caldwell said, his eyes steady on hers. "When Max gets better, and he will use this experience to teach him about honesty, integrity, and the strength it takes to do the right thing, even when it's the hardest." Anna nodded fervently, her heart swelling with gratitude. As she left the study, a weight lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt hope. Thank you for joining us for another heartfelt journey here on Storytelling and Beyond. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Together, let's continue exploring stories that touch our hearts and inspire our souls.